Hello.
Hello,
Yes,
hello.
my friend. How are you?
Yeah, hello, CP. I was watching your content, but my question is a little off the topic. I've heard that banking interest is haram in Islam. Is that true?
Well, interest is, Muhammad is trying to follow the Jews in many things, and interest is one of them, supposedly. But the Muslims, you see, what the Muslims they do. As an example, they say adultery is haram, right?
Yes.
But they allow to do called like a travel marriage, or a tourism marriage, or a student marriage. But this is adultery because you are marrying a woman for like a few weeks. You are a tourist going to Turkey. You don't want to stay alone.
Mm.
So what do? You marry and you call it tourist marriage. What does that mean? You go to a woman, you say, I am a tourist. I'm going to stay here for 2 weeks. I need a woman. I don't want to commit sin. A'udhu billah, a'udhu billah. I will pay you. Do you marry me for 2 weeks? And supposedly this is halal. So the Muslims, they always say something and they do something else. So they say that interest is not halal in Islam. But what they do other things. They name it different names. As an example, the what it's called, uh,
Riba.
the no the riba is the interest. They say the benefit of trade, the break of trade, the
Mm.
the win of trade. So the banks, they just give it different name
Mm.
to make it legal. It is the interest, but they give it
Means
different name.
they also give and take interest, but theoretically they shouldn't.
No, no, no. I mean, if this is a bank will go by Islamic law, all what they do,
Mm.
they just change the name of the interest. They don't call it
Uh,
interest no more. You know what I mean?
uh,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
like the dividend. They call, many names. There's tons of names. So they just change the name of it, and then it's became halal. Just don't call it riba. Don't call it the interest of borrowing money. As long as it's not an interest, it is halal. So just change the name. And this is what the
Okay, but
Muslims
why
do.
did Muhammad not permit interest? I mean, Muslims can do anything, but why did Muhammad not permit
Because he
interest?
was trying to copy the Jews.
So I think Jews take interest, but
The Jews don't take interest not because they are following their book, because they are not. You see, the Jews who did the business of interest is not the religious Jews, is the one who don't care,
hmm,
you know. And this is why actually the banks was controlled by the Jews for a long time, because during the time the Catholic Church was in control, they forbid the Christians from doing any kind of business with interest. The first one who started the bank, it was a Jew who put a bank in the street. This is the bank. It's just a chair, table in the
hmm,
street, and people they come and they borrow money from him. And because he was not a Christian, so he is not practicing against the law, because simply this was not allowed only for the Christians to do so. This is why
uh,
the major banks in the world are established early by the Jews, because the Jews they got the opportunity of a job. Nobody can be in competition with them except them. It's like, if you go to Las Vegas, you will see many of the casinos owned by American Indian.
hmm,
Why? Because American Indian, they are people who they are native, and the government in USA they decide to give them an exception, so they don't pay tax. And because of
hmm,
that, they have, I mean, a casino business for them is very nice business because they pay no tax. So all what they need to
yeah,
do, they go like if you are a businessman, you want to open a casino, you go to an Indian man, you say we want to register this in your name, and you borrow the money from me supposedly, and you open a casino, and you give me etc. from the
hmm,
money you make. So uh, uh, always there is a reason for those things. However, Muhammad is just a person who copy. He is not. He is a follower. He himself is a follower. He is not a founder. Muhammad, he
well, apart from
followed.
this, what else did he copy? Huh?
He copied everything. I mean, name one thing for me in
From
Islam.
Judaism, what else did he copy from Judaism?
As an example, did you see the Muslim when they do Hajj? After they do
Yes,
Hajj, they wear a hat, correct? Small hat in their head.
yes,
But this is a
yeah,
Jewish
yes.
hat. Don't you see the Jews, the Jewish hat, the small one in their head?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
this is a Jewish hat.
yes.
Where Muhammad he got circumcision from? From the Jews. Muhammad never circumcised. Never, never. He's not circumcised. Where,
And how do you prove that?
well, there's a books of history, and the Quran says, "Mutahhiruka." Allah Himself He circumcised him. Why Muhammad don't need to be circumcised? Because supposedly Allah, He is the one who did circumcision for him. You know,
Uh,
even
yes.
baptism is exist in the Quran. Baptism, you see, everything in the Quran is coming from somewhere. Muhammad is a follower. He is not a founder. The only thing he found is verses about him, about his sexuality, about his money. But most of the other rules is coming from others, either the pagan Arab or the Jews or the false cult Christians, like the Nasara, you know, etc. Everything Muhammad he have is from, so where Muhammad got the black stone? From the pagan Arab. Where he got the Kaaba? From the pagan Arab. Where he got Safa and Marwa? From the pagan Arab. Where he got the house of the Shaitan? From the pagan Arab. Everything he have. Where he got the ablution? From the Sabian. Where he got Ramadan?
I've
From the
heard he's also
Sabian.
copied funeral prayer from Jews.
Everything. The final prayer. You remember the example where Muhammad he got the story of the punishment of the grave? From the Jews. You
Yeah.
know, all those stories Muhammad he got them from somewhere. He have nothing of his own. The only stories about from his own, like if you go here in the Quran, the Quran speak about something maybe many of you do not know. In chapter 2 verse 138, what does that mean? What is this verse saying? They ask Muhammad, how come the Sabians they do baptism? The Sabian, by the way, they do baptism. Why the Sabian they do baptism? The Sabian they learned that from John the Baptist. They claim that they are following John the Baptist.
Okay.
If you read with me, guys, do you see what it says? The baptism of Allah, you see here between two brackets, is not exist in the Quran. This is false. This is
The baptism
intertranslation.
of Allah.
The baptism of Allah, and who can baptize better than Allah? Like what the heck? But Muhammad don't have baptism.
Yeah.
So what's happening here? How Allah do baptism, and did Muhammad do baptism?
I
Never.
don't know.
So what Muhammad he claimed when they ask him, how come you are a Sabian but you don't practice the baptism of the Sabian? He said the baptism of Allah is better than their baptism. And there is a reason for this. You see, the Sabian they live next to the river of the Euphrates and Dijla. They have a lot of water. Muhammad is a person who live in the desert. If you want to do baptism to a follower, where he would do baptism to him? The water they have is hardly enough to drink.
Hmm.
They don't have a lake. They don't have a river. They don't have a dam. There's no water. So he cannot do baptism. But yet he did not deny that he is a person who believe in baptism. Do you notice? What he
Yes,
claimed,
yes, yes.
that when somebody say Shahada, Allah baptize him in heaven.
Hmm.
So the baptism of Allah is the best baptism. I don't do baptism, Allah do baptism. But yet if we
Water
ask the
shortage.
Muslim, yeah, if we ask the Muslim what the word baptism mean anyway, any Muslim can tell us?
Baptism in the name of whom?
You see, in the Arabic language, it says sabagha, which mean color, you know, sabagha, it's
Hmm.
color. Okay, if we say color here, for sure it doesn't mean that he color you with the color. This is the word is used exactly by the Sabian for baptism. This is the term. You see, the Christian don't use this. The Christian, they in Arabic we say ammada, ammada, which means straight out, straight things out. Ammada. We don't say sabagha. Sabagha is something the Sabian they say about what they call baptism. Christian don't use that word. So Muhammad is obviously is not copying the Christian baptism here. Is talking about the Sabian baptism, for this is their terms and this is their speech. They do sibagha. They color you by the color of God. Muhammad is a founder of nothing. Allah is a name exist before him.
So
All the prophets' names he
how was
mentioned,
Muhammad so successful in the beginning?
he
How
was
did he
not.
convince everyone?
He was not successful in anything, my friend. Muhammad, he said, if only 10 Jews believe in me, if only I wish all the Jews will believe. He could not convince 10 Jews. You see,
So then he
the
became a
one
warlord
let
and
me ask you, do you know who is
started
the
killing
first?
spree.
Do you know who is the one who followed Muhammad?